And welcome everybody to WRUU, LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. I'm your host, Adam Messer. And today, my special guest is a guy that, if you are a comic book nerd like me, and you live here in Savannah, you probably have heard me talking about Terry Drehmel, the mind behind Mr. X and the SteeRange Comics, right?
Right here at Glitch Discorporated.
Glitch Discorporated. And you, Terry, you have a new book out, Professor Macaroni, right?
Sir, it's his second adventure, actually. It's Travel Troubles, and it's sold out.
I cannot believe how quickly it sold. I was actually, everybody listening at home, I was the first person to buy the first issue at the Savannah Authors Expo.
Absolutely.
Where you debuted it.
Absolutely.
So that was so cool.
There are still copies available at, can I put a plug in?
Yeah.
Down at Planet Fun, down on Broughton Street. Talk to John. I know he's got copies of it left down there yet.
We can talk about what we have. We just can't tell people to buy it.
Oh,
yeah.
No.
So
don't. Just talk to John.
Yeah, you can just do whatever. So you're listening to the Adam Messer Show, and I'm your host, Adam Messer. And Sebastian, do you mind, melting some faces for us?
Yeah.
All right, this is Sebastian Messer with his band Krieger. All right, that was Sebastian Messer, everybody, with his band Krieger, and he's working on that. So, Bass, you planning on putting some stuff out next year?
Maybe.
Yeah?
Hopefully.
So, hey, Bass, you got it?
We're good. Yeah.
Can you hear it? Okay?
Scratchy, but we're good.
Okay. Having a little technical difficulties with the headset in the studio, everybody. Isn't that the way life is, though? Like, life is just like a set of technical difficulties sometimes.
Well, and it's the overcoming part that's the interesting part, right?
So. Like, how do you deal with it?
Right.
So, all right. I am a big fan of your work, the SteeRange Comics. For those of you just now playing with us at home, I went to Graveface Records and Serendipity. I missed you by that much. I'm pinching my fingers together, y'all. But I saw the Comic-Con issue of SteeRange. It was like a tribute to conventions, and I was looking at it, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. It's very homegrown, very indie, and I bought it at the Graveface Records, and I started reading it. I was like, this guy gets it. Because I've done a lot of conventions over the years, and you kind of hit the check boxes on a lot of the different, less than favorable stuff, I think. With the nerd community and conventions.
Well, we can't take ourselves too seriously.
Right.
So, but with that in mind, I think a lot of it, too, is just to try and encourage people to draw comics, because you should be doing them for the fun part of it and not for the, maybe I get invited to a Comic-Con or something. You know what I mean? Right. Realistically. And that's true of anything, writing or any type of artwork, creativity.
I totally agree with you. And we've talked before, but just the micro version of the origin story of Mr. X and the SteeRange Comics.
Well, originally, X, or whatever you want to call him, was one of my imaginary friends. So, we kind of got together and started our own comic book and invited some other imaginary friends, and it's all grown from there. So living in Savannah has been interesting, because I see a lot of people with imaginary friends in Savannah, and so I feel welcome here. And
Savannah's such a great art community.
It is.
Yeah.
And you can you know, you can look on the street on any given day and see people just expressing themselves, having a good day, and that's great. You know, I mean, that's what it's all about. So comic books being what they are, I mean, it's kind of like a folk art kind of thing.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
You know.
I think comic books they've changed a lot over the years. You know.
Oh, truly. Yeah.
We've had. I mean, back in the day, I guess they call them the funny papers or whatever.
Yeah.
The comics and stuff like that. And I think it's just interesting the evolution of those, you know, funny books too. You know, they tackle a lot of serious issues.
Truly, and I think too the change from something cheap and easy, if you will, to something a little more, as you're saying, with depth, and something probably produced a little more on the expensive end. When you start looking at graphic novels and things like that, I can see why people are sticking things in plastic bags with cardboard behind them, because you're spending pretty good money to buy these things, and you don't want to be throwing them under the bed or something like that.
Yeah, right before we started, we were talking about my dad when he was a kid. He would go to the comic book store, or I don't even know if it was a comic book store.
There were not comic.
It was a convenience store or something like that. And he would buy a comic book, and the guy would you know, he'd fold it over, and he'd crease it down the middle, and he'd put it in the bag. And my dad said that sometimes there'd be cigar ash in there and stuff like that. And
I think a lot of the early comic books that I bought, I got at drugstores, because the drugstore was someplace you went, and they'd be on these racks, and so they're sitting in the sun baking all day long, you know, and that sort of thing. So. But yeah, as far as actual comic book stores themselves, that's pretty much a 20th century or 21st century thing, I guess. You know,
I remember in the 80s going. I was born in *76, and I remember in the 80s going to like a comic. I was raised in Cincinnati, and I remember going to a comic book store, and it was actually smaller than, you know, a regular shop. It was just a tiny little window front store, and. You know, I'd go there, but a lot of the comics that I would get were on a spinner rack at a convenience store, like a 7-Eleven or something like that. Did you ever hear of Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
No, I don't think I have.
Okay, well, he's written a lot of books about, you know, personal finance and stuff like that. Anyway, in his Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he talks about back in the day they used to rip the covers off and they'd send them back to the publication to get their refund.
Right.
So either he got those or he came up with the idea to do a comic book library out of his basement, and he charged 10 cents, and the kids could come in and they could read all of the comics that they wanted. So he would buy, you know, the different books or whatever, the most popular books, I guess, or whatever. And he came up with this comic book library.
Pretty cool.
You know, back in the day he charged kids 10 cents. You know, for 10 cents back then, you know, 10 cents, you know, that was like $5 or whatever, you know, today, I guess. I don't know how much exactly it would be, but with inflation out there, somebody's like, you don't understand inflation. I'm like, I know that things are a lot more expensive now, but maybe like $1 or something like that back then.
Yeah.
But you couldn't, like today, you can't even buy a comic for $1. Well, you can. They do have dollar versions. I'm sorry. But, you know, the new books are mostly $4, $3.99 or $4.99 or whatever.
Right.
So think about that. Back in the day, if you paid somebody $5, you got in, you could read all of the different issues.
Right.
You know, you pay one entry fee.
Right. That's a pretty cool idea. I mean, that's really.
I think it was pretty clever, but he talks about that in his book about being like an entrepreneur, and I always thought like, oh yeah, that'd be so cool. You know, back if I was a kid and I had done that, you know, instead of cutting grass and stuff. Man, I could have been sitting around reading comic books and charging kids $1.
Right, or you could have been drawing them and making nothing. So,
yeah.
You know.
Everybody, you're listening to WRUU LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. I want to play this little announcement. It's from our station manager, Dave Lake. I'm going to play it now, and I'm going to play it at the mid-hour and the quarter till hour. But it talks about our license. So let me set this up. And this is our station manager, Dave Lake.
WRUU LP was granted a license by the Federal Communications Commission to serve the public interest as a public trustee until April 1st, 2020. Our license will expire on April 1st, 2020. We filed an application for a license renewal with the FCC on December 1st, 2019. A copy of this application is available for inspection at the FCC website at fcc.gov. It contains information about the station's performance since the station's license was first granted on March 10, 2017. Individuals who wish to advise the FCC of facts related to our renewal application and to whether this station is operated in the public interest should file comments and petitions with the FCC by March 2, 2020. Further information concerning the FCC's broadcast license renewal process is available from the Federal Communication Commission, Washington, D.C. 20554, or at www.fcc.gov. On March...
All right, that was our station manager, Dave Lake. And, something else, too, I want to throw out there. Just had Black Friday, had Thanksgiving, had Black Friday, had Small Shop Saturday.
Right.
Okay. Cyber Monday's tomorrow. Do you know what Tuesday is?
Taco Tuesday?
That, yes. Tacos. It is Giving Tuesday. That's a trend that they've been starting, and I think it's really interesting. And I just want to throw this out there to everybody that we are a non-profit community radio station. So, if you're in the mood to give on Tuesday, go to wruu.org, and we've got a little donate button right at the top, and you can help support this radio station, WRUU. You can help support my show and the other shows that are on here. We get to have awesome guests like Terry Drehmel and other folks that have been on here. And so, just consider that if you would, to go on there on Tuesday if you're in the mood to give. We just had our big fall fund drive, so that was pretty cool. But it takes a little bit of money to keep the lights on and keep our license and stuff like that going, and do equipment upgrades and stuff like that. And so we do have an engineer that we have to retain for technical things and whatever. So all those things cost money. So we can't do the station without people like you listening, with your generous donations and your support. So I just want to say thank you all, and Giving Tuesday.
And where else are you going to hear the kind of things you hear on this station?
I'm telling
the
you,
music that you hear,
yeah.
The interviews that you hear, people like you.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Well worth it.
Well, I agree. I think it's I've been part of the station now June last year. So I've loved being part of the station. I just recently expanded the show because I have a lot of different guests that I wanted to get on, and so I can do a couple 1-hour segments, or sometimes 2-hour segment or whatever. And I love volunteering my time to do this. I mean, it's just for a nonprofit, how much cooler could it be to be on the radio?
Hey,
it's
there you go.
Yeah, so there's that, everybody. So yeah, go to wruu.org and consider clicking on that donate button. So Terry, let's talk about the elephant in the room, Professor Macaroni.
Okay. Well, Professor Macaroni started out as a children's book because I have grandchildren, and
shout out to the grandkids.
The grandkids up in Wisconsin digging themselves out right now.
I saw a picture the other day. That was so cool.
It's pretty awesome. It's a lot of snow. Anyway, started out that way, and the first installment was Professor Macaroni and the Cheese Monster. Of course, we're talking Wisconsin. So.
Yeah.
And so the most recent one being Professor Macaroni and Travel Troubles, and how he builds a car out of Limburger cheese.
Oh yeah, that was pretty cool. Actually, I enjoy the strange, odd, stuff, and it's a little out there. It's pretty cool.
Well, the problem for me was kids keep growing up,
right,
so it's like it started out they were all
little
single digit, and then
yeah.
all of a sudden by the time I get done with this thing, they're all double digit now,
Yeah.
And so it's like, but nevertheless, there's a lot of weird kids out there.
Yeah,
and,
a lot of weird adults.
Yeah,
yeah.
Well,
I like how when you signed it, it's you said takes one to know one. I was like,
it really does. Man.
Yeah,
it really does.
weird kids. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. So this one is like a half-size book.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we went with color.
Yeah.
And the problem with that I see with color is it gets more expensive.
It's very expensive.
So right away it was like, well, how can I cut the price? Well, cut the size.
Yeah.
So we went to the half size because it's something that's a lot cheaper to produce.
It's, easier.
And I could also do maybe a better quality paper. So if you're out there, you're thinking about doing a comic book, let me tell you right now, black and white's the way to go.
Oh yeah, I completely agree.
And
if you're self, if you're doing it yourself and you want to get it out there, definitely.
You always need to consider what the actual printing costs are going to be. So
well, that's one of the things too. Like I looked around, and talk about publishing. Whatever.
Right.
I looked around when I wanted to publish my fiction work, and there are a lot of different options out there. I wasn't really, I freelanced for the Savannah Morning News, do Savannah, and I wasn't really interested in, going through a bunch of applications to submit. So I wanted to, put my work out there, and Amazon was a great option because they have print on demand. I can order author copies, and pretty much they don't charge you for those services. You just pay for it and get it delivered to you. It's the most economical way, and most of the small hybrid publishers that I've talked with, they use Amazon for their printing, right? Mm-hmm. And I actually know a guy that he prints his comic books through Amazon.
Okay.
And he did his comic book. He's got several comic books that he published through Amazon. Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you can do on-demand printing, right. And they have black and white or color,
Mm-hmm.
But the other routes, there are vanity publishers out there, which I don't support at all. Those are basically where you pay to play, and
right.
You pay them to, but there's a difference, I think, between like vanity publishers and then paying for services like cover design or editing or
right.
formatting. Those are actually services that you can hire people for, but a vanity publisher, you're going to pay them and they're going to give you so many copies of the book. Now there are publishers out there where you can pay them for all the services, but they're not a vanity publisher, right? So just a word of advice out there, everybody. When you're printing something, cheap is better. Sometimes it's the best way to go. It just depends on what your project is and what you want to do, right?
Right. Because your book of poetry, now that is really well presented.
It's an Amazon book.
Right. And it just really looks great, and it feels great, and it reads great. So,
yeah, I appreciate that.
Well,
it's gonna you're making me blush because we just came from E. Shavers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we just dropped off a couple. I dropped off 2 of the new anthology books,
mm-hmm.
The Stories We Tell After Midnight, and I was looking around to see if they had any of my books left, and they had 1 copy of the poetry book, and someone had stuck a bookmark in it and said, "Please enjoy the words."
Ah.
I was like, oh, I wonder if they did that or somebody did that, and so I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
That is great. That is great.
Yeah, it's just kind of a neat feeling. I think it's really cool. Like, I like when I meet other creators who, they have a really cool thing that they're doing, they're putting it out there, and,
Well, I look at you, your website, your posts, all of that, very encouraging. And, getting these updates on your word
beat poetry,
yeah.
Word beat poetry.
Well, and then the writing experiment.
Oh, the NaNoWriMo thing. Yeah, that was brutal. I did that. I actually won by completing the 50,000 words.
Right.
And but that was brutal. It was like every day, okay, I've got to do this. Okay, but it was brutal in a good way because I had to. I put it out there to the world, said, hey, everybody, I'm going to do this novel. I'm going to do this novel.
Mm-hmm. It's like saying you're going to quit smoking, right? All of a sudden, everybody knows.
Yeah, it's like, oh. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to publish. And the weird thing about it was I did, they had this little incentive where, you get these little badges or whatever. And I had hit, every day I was posting it. And then one day I was sick and I didn't post an update. And I was like, oh, man. And at the time, you couldn't go back and update it, so you lost your streak.
Oh wow!
Online, not in the real world, but and I was like, oh man. And then I guess the other people, said something about it or whatever. Then they corrected it. They fixed it where you could actually go back in and put the dates. So I was able to get my streak back. I was like,
yeah.
Because they have this thing where you can do like, I think it's 2 days, 7 days, 14, and 21.
Does that really get your creative juices flowing, or does it just get your chops going as far as writing?
It's a weird experience, I have to say, because there's a huge community behind it. It was mostly positive and uplifting. I didn't really have any negative experiences with it.
Mm-hmm.
The only negativity that I felt was really myself. I was like, oh, I got to do this, It's like kind of like that nagging feeling some days. And there were some days where I wanted to take off. I was like, I think the least number of words I wrote in one day was 240, which is not a lot, but it's almost a page.
Yeah,
I was like, I write something.
Yeah.
And then one day I wrote like 6,000 words or something like that. So, just playing catch up. But
you get on a roll. Yeah.
It was definitely an experience. I mean, like, when you get into that groove and you're like, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that. When you're illustrating, you have a story and you're illustrating, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work because you have to, you're like, okay, well, I want him to look this way. I want it to look that. I want it to have this expression or what, and you have to do all the storytelling with the pictures,
right.
And then you add dialogue.
Right.
And you're like, well, how is this all going to fit together? And it's a lot of thinking and planning.
Oh, yeah. There's quite a bit of that. And then there's also the whole thing of, making a mistake and saying, well, now what do I do?
Yeah.
I know a lot of my work I'm doing just on pen and paper.
Mm-hmm.
And so that requires an X-Acto knife and some other processes to remove something that you really don't like.
Yeah.
But to our listeners in Normal, Illinois, they're the ones who, Eric and Jen presented me with a Syntec tablet.
Oh, yeah.
And so
you're starting to
working my way into that, yeah. And which, digitally working, you can erase something instantaneously.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't this, oh my, I have to go back and cut a chunk out of the paper and tape something else in behind it. So that's
I have a Wacom tablet, and I have not really gotten into the digital spectrum yet.
The whole thing is it offers so much more horsepower than I'm probably capable of utilizing. So that's a little bit daunting, but in the end, I know that's where I need to go.
I think it's so cool because that's one of the things I want to go into, because I have a graphic novel that I've been wanting to do for several years now, and but I was talking to actually Emmy Kafalis last night, the one I posted the podcast about. She wrote a book called A Capital Dream, where she wrote and illustrated it. And so I was asking her, I was like, well, what did you use? And she used her MacBook, I think, or maybe it was her iPad, I can't remember. But she used Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator, I think.
Right.
And so, she colorized it. And we were talking about, you have to, when you're coloring things, it's even a whole different ball game than just drawing it and illustrating it, right?
Right.
Because you have to look at the colors and the shadows and...
Well, that's one of the main reasons X is in black and white, is because I've never really, picked a color.
Yeah.
He's a Martian. I don't know. That changes.
I was thinking off gray green. I don't know.
I think he started out as green, just solid green, because that's what the color was that all Martians were back in the 50s.
Yeah.
They were all little green men.
Yeah.
And then, now that's changed. So
Yeah.
And inking has changed too. I mean, you got all these iridescent colors and different things that you can use now that just didn't exist in the past. So yeah, but I maybe we should start a Wacom or a Syntec class or whatever.
That'd be cool.
And
we could get one of these SCAD kids to show us. You know what? I talked to, it's so crazy talking about that, but I had talked to Brian Ralph about maybe doing something outside of his professorship or whatever, just to see if he'd do some seminars or something like that. So I would love to get somebody like him, because he does cartooning.
Yeah.
His artwork would be it would be a great example of how to learn how to.
You don't think we'd feel crushed under the weight of trying to,
I don't think
look
so.
up for him?
I don't think so. I think he's a pretty neat guy.
Yeah, he is.
He's real cool, laid back.
I'm talking about our own self.
Oh yeah. Me, no. You know what? I don't. He's so cool. He's not the kind of guy that would. I don't see him being the kind of guy that would be like, oh,
He wouldn't. I'm talking about.
oh, you mean you and I
personally,
Oh, man,
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
I came up with a thought for you. Self-doubt is the kids' table at a pity party.
Oh, there we go.
So,
Is that where like you're like 13 or 14 and they still send you over there?
of course,
Yeah, you're like you're not big enough to be in the.
So if
adult
you're going to be at a
table
real pity party, leave the
yet.
kids' table.
Yeah, that is. That's so crazy because talking about the imposter syndrome, there's a lot of self doubt out there. There's a lot of.
Oh, well, and the interesting thing is if you're lacking in it in any way, just go on the internet. I'm sure there's plenty of people that are willing to help you out.
Hey, roast me.
Yeah, just fry me.
Roast me. That was good.
So,
is that when you wrote that poem at the Savannah Authors thing? Is that kind of how it happened? You're just
I think it was interesting to be in a room with authors.
Mm-hmm.
Being a cartoonist, it's like I don't consider myself an author necessarily. I used to write comedy stuff for a magazine at one point in time. I did a comedy page, and I didn't consider myself an author even then. It was just I'm writing jokes, and or funny stories or something like that. And but it was a paying gig, so that was all right.
Yeah.
But
well,
no,
that makes,
you're in a room with real authors. I mean, you're a real author, and so it's like
you get paid and you're published. You're a real author.
Well, I'm looking around and here's a guy that wrote a crime novel, and here's this and here's that, and it's like, wow, this is really great. I mean, so I felt a little, bit of the author aroma.
You're the only comic book creator in the room, though. That was so cool.
Well, I'm used to being the odd guy out. I've always been the oddball. So it's.
I know that seat all too well myself.
Yeah. I consider it a little bit of a pin now. That's good. I know I'm all right. But it was great being in this room because you could feel all the creative energy and the discussions and things that were going on. But your friend, the comic book guy. I'm going to say his name wrong. I'm going to say Ralph Bryan.
Brian Ralph.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, Ralph Bryan is a motorcycle racer.
Oh,
anyway,
yeah.
Brian Ralph was there, and it was like, here's
so
this
cool.
accomplished person, and it's like, and then all these other people, and it's like, this is just great. And it's like all of a sudden it just pops into my head. Well, our good friend Ernest Hemingway. I mean, he was, wow, well, there's an author, and it's like, so that's where that came from.
It's so crazy because I don't feel like I'm an author. A lot of times, I know that writing books and publishing books and whatever, I don't sell a ton of books. Honestly, even at the thing, I didn't try to sell books, and I sold one because the person wanted to get the book, but I wasn't trying to sell books. So you sold out of your Professor Macaroni, which is a great accomplishment.
Well, the thing though is, I mean, Sebastian's sitting here. He calls himself a musician. Well, he's got a guitar in his lap. I'd say that's a pretty good definition of a musician. He plays just excellently. So, and so you say, well, I don't know. I'm not an author. It's like, claim it, man. Because, it was kind of that thing of until I went and got a business card made that said cartoonist on the bottom of it. And it's like, now you're stuck, man. You know what I mean? You might as well get a tattoo
put it
or
out
something.
there. You gotta be
you
it. You gotta
now.
live it. Yeah.
So that's the whole point of it. It isn't what you're selling.
Yeah.
Because then you're not an author. Then you're a salesman.
Right.
So look at it that way.
That's pretty cool. We are going to do our station break real quick.
Cool.
So everybody, you're tuning in today. My special guest is Terry Drehmel, and I'm your host, Adam Messer. This is the Adam Messer Show, and you're listening to us on WRUU-LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. I'm going to play an important message from our station manager, Dr. Dave Lake, and then we're going to hear some more music from Sebastian Messer. Stay tuned.
And 2017, WRUU-LP was granted a license by the Federal Communications Commission to serve the public interest as a public trustee until April 1st, 2020. Our license will expire on April 1st, 2020. We filed an application for license renewal with the FCC on December 1st, 2019. A copy of this application is available for inspection at the FCC website at fcc.gov. It contains information about the station's performance since the station's license was first granted on March 10th, 2017. Individuals who wish to advise the FCC of facts related to our renewal application and to whether this station is operated in the public interest should file comments and petitions with the FCC by March 2nd, 2020. Further information concerning the FCC's broadcast license renewal process is available from the Federal Communication Commission, Washington, D.C., 20554, or at www.fcc.gov.
Whoa, man, that's pretty awesome.
All right.
That was Sebastian Messer, everybody, and he's got a band called Krieger. And it's what, death / thrash metal?
Yeah, a little bit of both.
Yeah, you got a new pedal.
Yeah,
What kind of pedal is it?
it's a distortion pedal, and so I'll show you how it works. Like, it goes from
that's
a
okay.
distorted wavelength to a clean wavelength.
Nice.
Very
It's
good.
pretty
Very
sweet.
good. So you don't-
Even
Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, you don't have to poke holes in your
Yeah, I
amplifier
don't
then
have
to
to
get.
press buttons while I'm playing.
Yeah,
Quick.
he's been playing almost 4 years now, right?
Outstanding.
Next March.
Yeah, March will be like 4
Mhm.
years. And how many hours did you say you figured out you've been playing? Like, it's like almost 4,000 hours or
yeah.
something like that.
Yeah,
He's been playing, like, he plays every day. Like, what? How many hours do you think it was,
I
Bess?
think it's like 6 hours.
6 hours on average, about 6 hours a day.
So like 8,760.
In 4 years.
Yeah,
All right.
6 times 365 times 4.
Yeah, some days it's more than that.
Yeah.
But you know, the life of a
Hey,
kid,
that's a musician, man.
that's what I'm saying. You know, being a kid and living
With a
free.
guitar like that, you better be playing on that thing,
Yeah.
man. That's great.
Yeah. So everybody tuning in today, you are listening to the Adam Messer Show, and I'm the host here, Adam Messer, and my guest today, my special guest is Terry Drehmel, and you are a local comic book artist / cartoonist / motorcycle man.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not the motorcycle man, but
A
I am
motorcycle
a
man.
motorcycle man. I'm a Triumph guy.
Yeah, yeah. You and Darlene go cruising around and stuff, right?
Right. She's had her own motorcycle for many years. I've had them since 1979, something like that.
Ah,
when I
that's
first
so
got my
cool.
first bike. So.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I see you shaved off the stash since the last time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cleaning it up. You know.
Yeah, I forgot to shave today, so I got like little scruffies. But yeah, man, it's so cool. I think one of the things, as being a creator and doing your thing, we were talking about the imposter syndrome beforehand. I think it can be daunting to put a label sometimes. You know, like this last year, I had somebody like say, "Oh, you know, what are you going to call you?" And I was like, "I'm not really sure." You know, just say Adam. You know, Adam Messer. And they're like, "Well, I have to tell them what you do." I'm like, "Well, I do a lot of different things." You know, and
Right.
I was like, you know, so I kind of limited it, or not limited it, but I kind of started saying, you know, I'm an author, journalist, and a radio show host
I think that covers it quite well.
for the entertainment side.
Yeah.
You know, and then I went and did poetry.
Well.
I was like, so
well, that kind of falls into the author
yeah,
subtitle there, you know.
poets. But I tell you what, I'm working on a new poetry book,
Mm-hmm.
and we're gonna do another poetry event at East Shavers, and
That's really a great
January.
venue.
That was
that's
so
just
much
a fantastic
fun.
place.
I think it was so much fun. You know, the whole experience. You know, being able to hang out and talk with folks, and you know, I was surprised because you know, meeting Brendan Walsh at East Shavers, East Shaver Booksellers, kind of opened my eyes up to how much I actually like poetry,
Mm-hmm.
and then you know, writing poetry, and you know, I was surprised, you know, because I had met you because of the comic book,
Right.
but then to find out that you and Darlene actually like poetry a lot.
Oh, yeah. Well, again, like you said many times, do you like music? You know,
Yeah.
and really, I think the other part of it is to hear people perform, if you will, or read their own work.
Yeah.
You know, it really gives you a different feel for
Yeah.
what's going on. I mean, you can look at a poem on a printed page and still not get the same feeling of it that, you know, having the poet themselves read it. So,
Yeah.
and E. Shavers is just a great venue to get together like that.
And
It's very
your comics
relaxed.
are down there too, right?
In the back room there, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, featured on the mantelpiece.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought that was great, man. I just about fell down when I saw
Yeah,
that.
like,
So,
look at that.
but, you know, I think, too, when you start talking about getting a group of people together and everybody gets relaxed and starts thinking in terms of poetry.
We had some adult beverages and some nice little snacks. It was
Some
pretty
good
cool.
cheese,
Well, nobody got drunk. It was just a couple bottles of wine. Was it? I think
Anyway.
everybody had like one glass or something like that. Everybody.
Anyway, it was more the fact that the place we were at was very relaxing.
Oh yeah,
and it
their
wasn't like
atmosphere is
there's
so great.
all kinds of store stuff going on in the
Yeah.
background or anything. It was just really
we had the
really
we had the
back.
whole room.
Yeah, it was like being in somebody's living room.
Yeah, it was really cool,
You know?
like, just hanging out.
So
And I like doing the, it's kind of weird, but I like doing the round robin, having everybody read a poem, and then talk about what they thought about whatever.
right.
And so
I mean, I've never been to I see ads for things like poetry slams and things like that, and it's like, it's kind of like the open mic thing, which I think to me is a little daunting for a lot of people. And when you start talking about maybe some of the younger poets or people like that out there that don't think they're going to get the respect they're in the first place, it would be challenging. But something like that, like you were talking about, where you're just sitting around and
just
talking and comparing notes, and
it's just real laid back and relaxed. I mean, I think that's a great way to to do.
it's a good way to
things.
draw people out, I think.
Yeah. I mean, why make it something like over the top? Just have a chill, kind of relaxed day.
Right.
So, I'm looking forward to that. When is the next SteeRange comic coming out?
Well, we're well into the development phase or the drawing phase, or however you want to look at it. I think I'm on about page 5 or something like that.
Wow.
So yeah, it's coming along. It's probably going to be, with the holidays and everything else like that, it's probably going to be well into next year. But January, February, something like that. But I expect to have issue number 6 out.
2020.
Yeah, for
Nice.
sure.
Maybe by the next Savannah Author Expo. We'll do it probably next November.
Okay, well, yeah, I'd hope to have it out before that. We'll see how it goes.
Maybe before that, but yeah. It's I sent you over a little cartoon character that
I think that's great.
Now
you keep talking about this graphic novel. I think you really need to explore that stuff. And I saw something that Sebastian had drawn as well posted.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
It's like you guys need to start putting staples on this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I was actually thinking about this. Is talking about Amazon again,
Right.
I was actually thinking about doing the book through Amazon and making it like a little graphic novel.
Sure.
But it is a matter of technology and time.
Yeah.
That's time and things like that. So I've got to I'm right now working on the next releasing the next Blood Thrasher book. So that was the NaNoWriMo project.
Okay.
That I didn't tell anybody until the last day. I was just like, it's my NaNoWriMo, but I was doing the follow up Blood Thrasher novel.
So you're getting that.
It's done. I just have to edit it, and I'm going to put it out on New Year's Day.
Oh wow, you are into it.
Yeah, so it's. I mean, I wrote it, and I'm like, the crazy thing about it, talking about, starting stuff over or doing stuff or whatever. I started that project. The first one I wrote in 6 weeks, and I was like, oh, put it out, a little novella, boom, 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 bam, I've got a book out there, and I was gonna put out the next one in September. I've released that one in August. I was gonna put the next one out in September. And I got into the writing of the second one, and I was going to originally do 6 little novellas, remember back in the day they had little westerns and stuff.
Sure.
So something like that,
Right.
or even the short, stories with science fiction and stuff, that kind of thing. And I got into writing, and I was like, I don't like this. So I rebooted that 3 times this last year. I wrote over 30,000 words collectively
So you did the Boston thing, right? It's like
Well,
the
you know
first
what I
album
did?
came out right away, and then
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I only did like a year. It was like over a year. But this NaNoWriMo, I was like, okay, I wanted to put the book out. I wrote out the outline. So the Save the Cat writes a novel. I talk about that a lot because it really helped me out this year.
right,
But I decided to learn my craft this year, learn more about writing, the process, and now I consider myself to be a fairly decent writer. Academically, business writing, professional writing. Fiction writing is a whole nother world.
mm-hmm.
So I started working on how could I be a better writer. So I used the Save the Cat 15 beats sheet, and I wrote the outline. And then I was like, oh, this NaNoWriMo challenge, hold my feet to the fire.
Right.
And
right.
I'm like, okay, if I fail this one,
Well,
because I did the same, I'm going to be honest with you, I did the same challenge over the summer, like a 90-day challenge, and I couldn't finish it. It just wasn't the right. It
sounds
just
like too
wasn't-
much pressure or something, maybe.
Well, it just
It-
wasn't
it
the
just
right
wasn't
thing.
flowing.
Yeah, it was not, and whatever. So this one, I was like, I'm gonna get this done. So that was the reason why I was like, okay, I want to do this NaNoWriMo, because I originally wanted to have the book out for my own author thing.
Right.
I didn't, but I did have the anthology, which was cool, but it wasn't the same as having my own book. So it was nice. That's what I was saying about it. It was like when I had the negative thoughts, it was like, oh, am I not going to finish this one? But then I would think, no, I'm well on my way into,
Right.
finishing this. And actually at the end there, I was so far ahead of myself that I decided to write all 30 days instead of finishing early. I could have finished probably in the second week if I wanted to, because of the way I was writing. And but I was like, you know what? I want to do this. I want to be disciplined and write for 30 days.
Right.
So
get used to doing that.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the cool things. Do you experience something similar with your projects when you're working on stuff?
I have to pick a certain time to do stuff, and that's probably the bigger thing is picking the time.
Yeah.
Because like you're saying, you force yourself to do something, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
especially when you start talking about drawing, I quit for a long time.
Me too.
And came back.
Me too.
And it took a while to get, a
Like
handle
that
on
Inktober stuff,
Mhm.
that I was drawing. And
Right.
I hadn't drawn in years. Like every once in a while I would draw something, but I hadn't drawn in years.
Right. And so then all of a sudden you got to relearn how to use a pencil again, or how to use a pen
yeah,
again.
you got to break
and-
the rust off.
Yeah. So, but once you get in the flow with it, then
Like that Bionic Berry was just a knockoff type character I made up just to do Inktober.
right,
So I'd have like a themed character,
right,
so I could make like little goofy whatever of this character. Like the one I loved the most though out of all that was the Wolverine tribute cover. Did you see that one?
Yes.
Like the
Very-
Frank Miller Wolverine
very nice, very
issue number 17 came out I think in like 93 or 92 or something. I can't remember what year it was, but Frank Miller on the side where he signed his name, it says "Never Say Never Again." He wrote that on there.
nice.
I was like, oh, that's so cool. That's like one of my favorite Wolverine covers ever.
Mhm.
So let me play this station announcement real quick here.
Very good.
The Savannah Harbor Foundation presents the annual Boat Parade of Lights on Saturday, November 30th from 7 to 9 p.m. along the historic riverfront. The event will feature a tree
I
lighting
have another
ceremony,
poem for you.
a holiday proclamation read
Awesome.
by General Oglethorpe, a cannon firing, and fireworks.
Well, have you read it?
For more information, visit SavannahHarborFoundation.com.
WRUU 107.5 FM is a new and different listener-supported and all-volunteer community radio station for Savannah. Our diverse broadcast and web programming is supported by generous listeners who value our passion and spunk. We are independent of other media and receive no government or large corporate support. People like you are the largest and most important source of our funding. Go to WRUU.org to find out how you can make a one-time or monthly contribution. Thank you.
WRUULP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul.
All right, and hey, Bass, you mind playing a little riff for us?
Sure.
I'm telling you, I like that new distortion pedal you
It's
got,
great.
buddy. That's good.
That's great.
Yeah, I know I'm his dad and all, but he is good. He's
You got a lot
really
to be
good.
proud of.
Yeah,
A lot of
I
hard
do.
work there. A lot of
Yeah.
hard work there, definitely.
You said you had a poem you'd like to share with us?
Oh, well,
yeah.
you know, we've been talking a
Since
little
we're
bit
on the
about,
radio.
yeah, we've been talking a little bit about poetry and that sort of thing. And,
Yeah, you know, I'm feeling a poetry book coming out of you here.
Me?
soon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, you
Why
never know,
not?
yeah.
Why not?
This is to the undone. Many's the unfinished sonnet and painting, and many's the life cut too short, and many's the project ne'er started at all. So get off your duff and get on with it, sport. Self-pity will keep you from working, and self-doubt puts you far from the start. Shut your eyes, lift the pen, and begin all again, for it's all got to flow out of your heart.
That was just swell. That was really good. I like that. Yeah, you should think about writing these, like your little limerick that you had that was so good. So, all right, let's talk a little bit more about the SteeRange Comics.
Sure.
This is my deepest, most serious voice ever.
This
What
is,
has
are you going to stump the band here?
What has inspired you to continue on with your craft, sir?
Well, I think the inspiration just comes from the characters, and there's things that they have left to say, and
Don't they always want to say more than what you want them to say?
a lot of what they want to say can't be said on the radio.
I know, right?
So
It
anyway,
happened in my new book too, because I'm like, I've got a lot of vulgar language in there. I'm thinking if I need to edit it out so that it can be PG rated, or if I need to leave it in and it's R rated.
well, when you get to the point where you have little kids looking at things, that's where you got to kind of consider it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not trying to age target like young kids.
I'm not either, but it just seems like
They're the ones that read
people
it.
think I'm 9 years old or something. So I guess that's how that ends up working out. But realistically, it's still fun.
Yeah.
So I'm still laying on the floor in the bedroom, drawing on a piece of paper. Me and X hard at it. So that's why I'm still doing that.
He's just sitting on your shoulder tapping away, isn't he?
He's more like he's stomping around the room, going,
Yeah.
"What? That doesn't look anything like me."
That's not me.
No, so-
Yeah.
And my wife, Darlene, is my muse and my greatest source of encouragement.
She's pretty nice. I tell you what, she's really
the best.
supportive. You two have been one of the, some of the coolest new people that I've met this year. So I've been really
Thank you.
I appreciate you all coming out to all the different events and hanging out. And
Darlene's the cool one.
Yeah.
I just hang around on her coat heels, and her coattails.
That's how it is with my wife too. I'm like, I'm the nerd and she's
But
not.
you've had some great stuff this year too. I mean, really,
I've had a lot of fun with it.
the Authors Expo was a blast.
Oh, that was by far the best Savannah Quill. And Sebastian's been to all three of them. I've had a lot of meet and greets, a lot of author events. That one, I think, was the best day that we've had.
That was great.
It's going to be hard to top next year.
Nah.
But
We'll blow it right out of the water next year.
I think it'll be
man. It's gonna
a lot of fun. I mean, honestly, doing it again, that was the atmosphere that I wanted. I think we had the right mix of people. We had the right number of authors, and
well, and the location again, very great.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
And, so one of the cool things about it that I like doing the events is meeting new folks. Talking with them about what they're doing.
We had just such a cross section too of creativity. Really, I mean, going from Brian to all the way to people who are just starting out.
People, we had, and that's one of the things I try to tell people. when I'm talking with folks on the show. I interview authors and artists and entertainers. I talk to folks that are actors, screenwriters, musicians, artists, painters. I talk to a lot of different folks from all walks of life, and I don't think it matters if you are, like the best-selling author on the New York Times list, or if you're just a new person starting out, because what I look for with someone is like, first of all, how are, what kind of behavior do they have? What kind of vibe do I get from them?
Right.
And, I try to avoid the name droppers. You know what I mean? Because the name droppers are the folks that are kind of like, are you in it because you love what you're doing, or are you in it because you want the status of what you're doing?
Well, right. And that's kind of the what do you call success?
Yeah. And I like connecting with people who are, they're in it because they love it. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Passion is great. Making money from it's even better.
Well, success won't hurt. Yeah,
it's like I wouldn't mind being a New York Times best-selling author.
But
Anybody that might be listening,
if you were, you still started out as just somebody,
I mean,
writing.
The thing about it is, you have. I think when we're talking with folks, you have people that they have. Everyone has a different background. They all have different perspectives. Whatever. But I think the cool thing about it is, when you're a really cool person, a really decent person, and you're nice and friendly, you know what? That is so much better than like someone who's a best-selling this or best-selling that, and they're an absolute terror to talk with,
right?
Or
obviously you don't know who I am, right?
Yeah, that kind of person, or they just they think because of the hierarchy, like, oh, I'm higher up on the status than you are. It's like, okay, for now. For now, maybe.
Well,
let me talk to you in 20 years when you're a C, D, E lister.
That is that whole thing of the bell curve on your life, right? I mean, you start out at nothing, and maybe you work yourself up to something, and eventually you have to accept the fact that you're going to be coming back down again.
I think when we're babies, when we're first born, we're at our purest form because
we're
untainted.
Some of us are at our peak too.
Yeah. Some people are. Yeah, it's like
I peaked early. So.
I peaked at 3 years old. Like, all right, man. So
long ride down.
Yeah, but that's life, isn't it?
Yeah, truly.
So, where can folks find copies of SteeRange Comics? Because they're all over the city now.
I've been trying to keep. Well, I don't do anything online. Yeah. So if you're going to buy it, you have to come to Savannah.
But they could order. They could like call the store and order.
Oh yeah, obviously. If you
live out of town,
right? You can always go to Planet Hollywood's website, or Planet Hollywood. Forgive me, Planet Fun on Broughton Street, East Shavers, and Grayface Records. I'm trying to think right now. I think everybody else is out. I gotta get another printing going. Yeah, because I just really haven't been pushing it probably as hard as I should. And I'm working on something right now, so I'm really not that interested in the old stuff. But definitely Planet Fun and East Shavers and Grayface. You can always count on that. I may start looking around at some of the other local options.
We've got a couple of cool new local comic book stores that open,
right.
And then we've got they actually just had the local comic shop day not too long ago, like I think a week or two ago.
Well, you got Odin and Sons, you got Neighborhood Comics,
Comics and More out there.
Comics and More out on Montgomery Crossroad, and then there's a new one, really cool one down on Skidaway Road. I think I don't know what the cross street is with it, but it used to be a lawnmower repair place.
Oh.
It's a really great bookshop out there on
is
Skidaway.
it a bookstore?
Yeah, Acme.
Oh, that's where they are. I've been following their Facebook page.
They are great. So
okay, I need to get on over there and check that out because they've got like a bunch of new and used books, right?
And
they've got comic books too,
and very nicely displayed. Everything really well done out there. Yeah, it's a really nice place, and they're great people out there too.
I did not know that. That's a good one. So, all right, everybody. Well, you've been tuning in today to WRUU LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM. WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. One last thing, Terry, before we go.
Sure.
where can people find the SteeRange website?
It's www.SteeRangeComics.com, and it's SteeRange Comics COMICS.com.
That's awesome. All right, everybody.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
This is WRUU-LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. This is Cite from the album Live at WFMU, March 2000.